Welcome back to Wall Again, where passion meets music. And with the news that Metallica are returning to Europe next year for their M72 tour, and they're bringing two shows to Dublin, Ireland at Viva Stadium in June of 2026. I've got tickets myself, thankfully, and I've decided to listen through the Metallica album, the last one that they released in 2023. Of course, 72 seasons, and this is the one that they're actually touring at the moment. So, I had listened to this album when it came out first. I bought it on CD, obviously, and I had listened through it a number of times. And then it sort of sat on the shelf for a number of months, as these new albums do. You know, you get excitement at the time, you listen to the album through, you do maybe a review or something, and then it goes on the shelf, and then, you kind of forget about it, or you only pick it out if there's an actual reason. Well, there's no better reason than Metallica returning to Europe to play and play some of the songs off this album, should I say, and bring their M72 tour. So I'm going to review the album, review the packaging, and we'll have a relook at this album and see has anything on it jumped out at me, because I've been listening to it a little bit more in the last few weeks. Okay, so here's the album here. You can see there's a hype sticker on the front. That was on the original plastic, and I actually took that off and put it on the front of the album because it's basically the only place I could put it to keep it safe and make sure I don't lose it. Now, if you notice, the cover itself doesn't actually say Metallica. It's only on the hype sticker here. There's just the logo, the M logo, which is their new logo for this whole tour and this whole album and this whole genre, this whole phase of their career. So I think that's very cool. I really like the M. To be honest, I would prefer if they had Metallica across the front. I think the Metallica logo is synonymous with their album covers, and I always prefer to see that on the front of them. But, that's okay. Then we look at the colour. It's a very, very bright yellow. The cynic in me thinks that this was a marketing strategy, so it would stand out. The yellow album, this album definitely stands out if you've got a stack of albums, album covers or whatever. And I think if you look at the whole graphics and the marketing strategy behind the tour and everything, it's all based on this yellow and black. And I think it catches your eye, but I don't know, maybe it's a little bit over the top. I don't mind it. I've seen some of the t-shirts for the tour. I think it's actually, some of them are pretty cool, but I've seen other people say that the colour maybe is a little bit off-putting. And then we've got the new album, 42 Years of Metallica in over 77 minutes. So I think what they've done here, it's 42 years since they released their first album, so that's what they're commemorating there. Or 42 years since they've been a band, should I say, from 1981 to 2023. 72 seasons is meant to represent the first 18 years of your life, and that's some of the themes that they explore in this. So basically childhood, and a lot of the members of the band had tough childhoods, tough upbringings, and especially James. The lyrical content throughout the whole of Metallica's career is based upon his experiences as a child and as a youth growing up. And I think that's captured a lot on this album, to be honest, in terms of the themes. The back cover then has the 72 logo, which I think is very cool, and you can see him behind there. James is in behind, so it's kind of like he's in behind bars. And then some of the imagery on the front, you can see obviously there a cot or a crib where a baby would sleep, and then we've got all these different elements. They look like they're all charred up and burned, so I don't know, is there some subliminal message in there about childhood, and maybe what would you say, like a troubled childhood, maybe, something like that. There's all these different, I suppose, toys and items that maybe would be important to the members of Metallica as a child. So we've got a guitar which is completely broken here and seems to be charred. We've got some kids' toys around. We've got a little tricycle here in the corner, a rocking horse, what seems to be here in the other corner, and a chair, weights. So I think... yeah, and then there's just headphones there to music. So I think it's just, they're probably trying to say a message here about, the tough upbringing that they had, or some of them had. But I think it's pretty cool. So what I don't like about this album is when you look on the back, you don't get the track listing. So if you're listening through to the album, it's actually difficult to know what song you're on. You have to open up the album like this. So it slides out like that, and then you get this piece. So I'll leave the outer sleeve down. So on here we have pictures of the band in black and white, high definition. No airbrushing, I don't believe. You see everything there. Bags under eyes and wrinkles and everything, grey hair. So fair play to them for that. A lot of bands at this age, when they get to their 60s, they don't want to be photographed on the albums, but Metallica have no problem doing that here. So we see James Hetfield on the first one, Lars Ulrich on the second one, then we get Kirk Hammett on the third one, and Robert Trujillo on the fourth tab. And underneath each of them is a one of the toys or one of the items that's on the cover of the album. So I don't know what the reason behind that one is. Well, behind Rob is just the track list, but then you get this teddy bear here. So I don't know what the reason is behind that, but there probably is some reason. And then when you open it up, you get the track listing here. So for me, I would have preferred to see the track listing at the back, so you don't have to open up the album. And again, this is quite big and cumbersome, and you know, when you're listening to the album, are you going to leave this opened on your desk or on a table? Like, it's taking up so much room, and it's awkward. If you're halfway through an album, you have to stop, then you got to put this packaging away if you want to keep it good for the lifetime. So I don't really, maybe they wanted people to open up the packaging to see all the different elements of the album and not just stick the album on, look at the back. So maybe that was the reason for that. And then it just comes some interesting stuff on the bottom here. So produced by Greg Fidelman with Hetfield and Ulrich, 2023 Blackened Records Inc. So that's Metallica's own label, under exclusive license to Universal Music. So yeah, that's the way Metallica do things now. They have their own record label, they can do what they like. Then we have the booklet, which is basically all the lyrics in it, with again some of those objects I spoke about earlier. Nothing major here, just a general booklet. And then we get to the end, we get some credits. So Metallica, James Hetfield guitars and vocals, Lars Ulrich drums, Kirk Hammett guitars, Robert Trujillo bass. Then it gets into all the engineering and recording. Of course, recorded at HQ San Rafael, California. So Metallica have their own state-of-the-art, world-class recording studio, and that's where we record all their albums. That's where they've recorded all their albums since Saint Anger. So moving on to the track listing then, they've got in total 12 tracks. Clocks in at about 77 minutes, which I think is too long for an album, to be honest. I spoke about this before. Their last album clocked in at around the same and was split over 2 CDs, Hardwired to Self-Destruct. This one is 1 CD, but it's maxed out at 77 minutes. I think it's just too much music. It's too much music to digest in one sitting. It becomes repetitive, boring. You get songs that are too long just purely to fill out the space. I think they were purposely going to, fill the CD, and I don't think that that's always a good thing. So we'll just go through the track list, and then, so 72 Seasons is the first track. I think it's quite a strong track. It's the title track, and it's the first one on the album, which I don't think Metallica have done before. Usually the title track is the second one on the album if they're sticking to the formula, as we call it, that Metallica have. But certainly from the 1980s, Master of Puppets, Ride the Lightning and Justice for All, that's the way they kind of approach those albums. Then we go on to Shadows Follow, which is another great song. Great riff, great groove on that one. I have to say James' vocals are amazing on this album. And also Lars' drumming is amazing. It's very, very precise. So he may have had some help quantizing there in the studio. But to be fair, all the big bands do that these days. The latest Foo Fighters album, to me, sounds quantized. The latest Pearl Jam album sounds quantized to me, the drums. Let me know in the comments if you're a drummer, if you've listened to those albums and you think that they sound original and that they weren't quantized. I would love to hear it in the comments below. But I'm just, from me listening to those albums, and I know the production style of Greg Kurstin for Foo Fighters, he's their producer now. His production style is very pop, very mainstream, and he would definitely be insisting on drums being quantized. Andrew Watt was the producer for Pearl Jam on their most recent album, and he definitely would insist on everything being perfect and to the grid. So yeah, I'd be interested to know in the comments below if you're a drummer, or if you're a producer or an engineer, what do you think of those drums? But the drums on this to me sound perfect, and I think that's just where we are. If you're a big rock band and you're releasing an album these days, it needs to be perfect. It needs to be very highly produced with all the modern software, or it falls below par, and that's the issue we have these days. But in my opinion, it sounds good, but I just know at the back of my head that it's been quantized, and you can hear that kind of robotic feel to it a little bit. But the drumming is quite good from Lars, I have to say. He does well on this album. The next one then is Screaming Suicide, which is another great track. Track number 4, one of my favourite on the album, Sleepwalk My Life Away. Again, it's got a great groove and a great intro, and for me, that's one of the best things about Metallica songs, when you have that. Next one then, number 5, is You Must Burn. Kind of a slower, kind of sludgy song, but yeah, maybe a little bit boring in parts. Then we have Lux Eterna, which was the lead single on the album. Yeah, I didn't really like this one a whole lot, to be honest, when it came out first, and I still don't really like it now. Crown of Barbed Wire is a good song as the next one, followed by Chasing Light, which is, yeah, a little bit not that memorable, shall we say. And then we have If Darkness Had a Sun, which I think is an excellent song, one of the best ones on the album. Too Far Gone is a song that James really stretches out his vocals on, and I think this one is a strong song. Room of Mirrors, again, another great song, loads of great riffing on that one. And then probably my favourite song on the album, Inamorata. It ends, it's about just over 11 minutes long, and plenty of influence from Black Sabbath, from Merciful Fate on that one. I think it's a fantastic track, and yeah, I think it's the best one on the album, even though it's extremely long. And what I was saying earlier was the album's too long. I think this one works. I think there's enough different sections to keep your interest. So that's my review of Metallica 72 Seasons, their most recent album released in 2023. I'd probably give it a 7 out of 10, maybe 6.5 out of 10. There's too much music on it, basically. There's a few tracks they could have cut. They could have cut down some of the tracks. If they squeezed this into a 40-minute album, it would have been much higher. But as I said, the production on this is much better than the previous few albums, like Saint Anger, Death Magnetic, Hardware to Self-Destruct. Production's much better on this one. James' voice is on fire. He really sounds great. Even live, he's sounding great these days. So let me know in the comments below, guys, what you think of 72 Seasons by Metallica. I would love to hear your feedback. If you like this video, please hit the like button. And if you could also subscribe, and I will talk to you on the next one. Bye for now.